Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuoki Kyoto Wins. We are on Hachiro Iba's route, and we're on chapter 5 with him, so we are now officially on his exclusive route. So yeah, let's see what happened after a few days passed. We're in the Fushimi Magistrate's office, and you know what happens there. So you can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. After a few days had passed, I was preparing the arrangements for Kondo and Okita's departure for Osaka Castle when...
Yukimura, a moment of your time. You have a visitor.
Is it Iba? Oh, sure, give me a moment. I quickly wrapped up their clothing in the bags, and Shimada led me to the common room where I saw... I knew it!
Hello, Chizuru. How are you?
Iba, what are you doing here?
I was assigned to guard Kondo on this trip to Osaka Castle from the shogunate.
Then I want to go to Osaka Castle now.
At the moment, we're no longer Okuzume, but rather we've been reformed as the Ugeki unit. A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Ugeki unit?
Yup, and since it's almost New Year's, I would love to catch up with you, but now doesn't seem like the best time.
Well, if I went with you, maybe we could catch up on the road. He sighed lightly, and then Iba turned to face Hijikata.
So, how has Kondo been holding up? He's regained consciousness, but his fever's still hot. Soji's in no shape to swing a sword either. I see.
Iba bowed his head, closing his eyes for a brief moment. He too had shared a long history with Kondo, so I'm sure he was worried about the possible outcome of Kondo's condition. However, he snapped back up as if preventing himself from ruminating on what could possibly be.
Alright, I will assume full responsibility to ensure the two of them are escorted safely to Osaka Castle.
Hijikata shook his head slowly.
No, not two. There's going to be 3 of them.
I guess that means me.
3?
I wondered who the third person could be. Me! It couldn't have been any of the captains, since all of them were needed at the magistrate.
Why do you have that confused look on your face? You're heading to Osaka Castle too.
You probably should have told me sooner, you know, so I could pack. What? Me? I had absolutely no idea that I'd be going to Osaka, so naturally I was dumbfounded.
I see. So, because of her medical background, you want her to treat Kono and Okita, is that it? Exactly. Since it looks like the Satsuma's going for it, Kyoto will be a war zone soon. This war will be huge. I don't want her to get sucked into all this bullcrap going on.
Hijikata's intentions were good, and what he'd said made sense, but I couldn't bring myself to nod in agreement. It looked as though Iba understood him, nodding in agreement to Hijikata's proposition. But then he looked over to me, as if he was hoping for me to say how I'd felt about the idea. How should I respond? If those are the captain's orders, then I shall obey. Honestly, I had no desire to leave from the Shinsengumi with all that was going on, but if those are the commander's orders, I accept. As I gritted my teeth subtly, I was internally screaming from accepting an order I didn't want. My heart sank into a heavy stone in my chest as the reality of leaving began to settle. When Hijikata heard my answer, he closed his eyes, perhaps a little relieved, but then...
Is that what you truly think?
Well, you know, I'd be with you and Kondo and Okita. That's pretty good company there. As usual, Iba seemed to see right through my intentions, and his question got right to it.
Hey, Hachiro, don't confuse her.
Hijikata's like, shh, quiet, she's obeying, just let it be.
I'm not, but this is important.
Iba had already impressed upon me the importance of escaping Kyoto as soon as I could. Considering his own duties, there was really no need for him to look after what I wanted. But even then, Iba had been watching out for me. He respects my independence. The manner in which he'd acknowledged the position I was in and put what I wanted into consideration gave me the confidence to speak my mind. If I told either of you that I wasn't concerned about Kondo or Okita, I'd be lying. I think that having someone by their sides to treat and care for them is important. However, if war were to break out soon, as you suggest, then what will become of the others here? When I think about all the men who may suffer serious injuries here, it pains me to think that I'd be abandoning them all to leave for Osaka. After I spoke my mind, Iba's eyes twinkled kindly, and he turned to Hijikata. Am I really not going to Osaka?
The lady has spoken, Toshi. She's got a good point. There are many other experienced doctors to take care of Kondo and Okita. And this may sound rude, but just because she's with them doesn't guarantee that their conditions will improve to the extent you want them to. More than anything, though, if I take her with me, she'll probably resent me.
I don't think Hijikata would care about that part. Hijikata curled his lip bitterly, and he let out a troubled sigh.
Damn it. You let her get to you too, huh? Fine. Guess I just can't win with Edo women. You may be right there. You know, Toshi, other than the women of Hino, I never thought I'd meet a woman who could break you down.
What? Oh, okay. Hino was Kondo and Hijikata's hometown. I didn't know that. Didn't know Kondo and Hijikata came from the same place.
Hey, shut it.
So he's weak against women from his hometown. Hijikata thinned his eyes at Iba, and Iba simply laughed it off. However, Hijikata's tone shifted back to a serious one.
Well, even if those hothead Satsuma are gearing up for war, the shogunate's not looking for one. As long as we don't fall for their bait, I don't think the war's gonna happen. But even if fighting breaks out, the Satsuma only have so much men. I have faith we'll be fine.
Hijikata expressed confidence in the shogunate's odds, but...
Right.
Iba's answer vexed me. Usually, Iba trusted whatever Hijikata said and responded with a smile. But this time, not even Iba's handsomeness could hide the lines of worry in his face, and he tried to play it off.
In all seriousness, Toshi, please take good care of her. Chizuru, make sure you follow any order Toshi or anyone else from the Shinsengumi gives you.
Of course.
Alright, well, let's prepare Kondo and Okita for Osaka now. Can you lead me to them?
Oh, yes, of course. Please come this way. I led Iba to where Kondo and Okita had been resting.
Okita, how are you feeling? Can you walk?
Oh yeah, this is going to be a really awkward trip between these two. And I'm not going to be there to referee.
Oh, you think? Man, such a prick. Right, you can't. Here, let me give you my shoulder. Put your arm around my neck. Oh, some pussy who can't even swing a sword is carrying me. Jeez, what a low I've sunk to.
Oh, don't be an ingrate, Soji. Okita struggled to breathe, continuing to cough painfully, and he was taken outside. Then Kondo, too, was moved from the building.
I cannot say I have experienced many regrets, but I guess there is a first for everything.
Oh, I'm sure you've had regrets before, even if they were small ones.
When Lord Taiju needs me more than ever, I am injured and unable to help. Don't worry, just take it easy. I'll make sure everyone's safe while you're gone.
Hijikata assured Kondo confidently, then Kondo seemed to relax a little from his words.
I'll leave the rest to you, Toshi.
Hijikata nodded his head deeply. After we watched the Yugeki unit carry the two of them out, Iba turned to face me one last time to ask me a question.
You're sure you want to stay?
Apparently Chizuru is, but I'm not. Without any hesitation, I nodded my head. Yes, this is the path I chose. Iba's eyes sparkled, and he seemed like there was something he wanted to say, but instead he thinned his eyes. As a cool breeze blew against the background of sunset, Iba closed his eyes slowly. We paused for a moment, basking in the silence. Then he spoke softly, practically to himself.
If I had my wish, I would have you with me, even if it meant by force.
Want to drag me away with you, huh?
But if I did so, I know you'd regret it forever.
All I could do was stare at the ground. I knew that my decision had hurt someone very close to me. It wasn't so obvious that I couldn't see how what I wanted was against what he wanted.
Toshi said this earlier, but the Satsuma Choshu will do whatever they can to bring down the Tokugawa clan. I have no delusions that it will become war.
Iba had warned me of this back during the Omiya incident. Well, what do you think the chances of victory are?
That's uncertain. Based on numbers, the Shogun army should. But the outcome of war can't be predicted by numbers alone.
Iba expressed an anxiety of his in the past, that the Hatamoto and shogunate vassals were in no way prepared for a serious conflict, and the shogunate had experienced such defeat during the second Choshu expedition. Iba suddenly grabbed a hold of my hand, and he drew me closer to him, almost forcefully. "Hug me."
Promise me you won't die.
"If you promise me the same."
If you ever believe yourself to be in danger, run. Do whatever it takes to survive. I shouldn't have listened to you. I should have taken you with me to Osaka Castle today.
Well, you still could.
Promise me that I'm making the right choice in letting you stay here, that I don't have to worry about you.
Oh. His hands quivered as they clasped mine. As children, we'd held hands numerous times. When he would read to me, I remember thinking about how soft and delicate his hands were. And now, even as we've grown up, his hands were still giving me great warmth and comfort. I must do whatever it takes not to break his heart. As we neared our goodbyes, my heart felt heavy with the anticipation of missing him. I promise that I'll never do anything to hurt you, Iba. As I gave him my promise, he shared with me the same familiar smile I had grown to admire.
Okay, remember you promised.
Then, almost painfully, he released my hands, and so he left with Kondo and Okita. As I watched him leave, I spoke to him internally. Thank you so much, Iba. I vow to keep my promise no matter what, so please be safe as well. As the winds carried the dead leaves around my feet, I stood there watching Iba leave until the small of his back disappeared into the horizon. January 1868. January 3rd, 1868. Almost a month had passed since the Shinsengumi was tasked with guarding the Fushimi magistrate. Tensions were still brewing between the shogunate and Satsuma Choshu armies. Our enemies attempted night raids and instigated small skirmishes, doing everything they could to provoke the Shinsengumi into retaliation. As it seemed both sides were coming to a point, it only took one gunshot for war to break out. Ah! I'd heard a thunderous explosion outside, as if the sky fell and crashed onto all of Kyoto. I hoped no one I knew was hurt. Please, anyone out there, stay safe. I clasped both my hands tightly, and I began to pray to myself for hope. Then I felt a soft hand atop my shoulder with the tips of its fingers.
Everything will be all right. Do not worry. I am sure our allies will return safely in no time. This is similar to how Ikeda went, remember?
Oh, Inoue. Inoue. I knew that he was trying to comfort me so that I'd remain calm, but the hellish sound of gunfire from the outside, without any idea of what was going on, made it difficult to think about anything else. Doesn't this worry you, Inoue? The Shinsengumi men have been fighting alongside you for years, since Edo, too. Inoue gave me a kind smile, tilting his head slightly as he answered.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't worried. However, everyone has roles to play, and in times like these, lives will be threatened. That is why, for now, it is best not to panic and act rashly. Instead, we must wait until such a time comes, or at least that is how I see it.
Everyone has roles to play. Inoue had a way with words that subdued my anxieties, even as I grew more nauseous. I wasn't sure if it came off that way to him, but I was becoming almost sick with worry. Thank you, Inoue. I think I understand what you mean. Everyone has roles to play. I guess for me, that meant my role was to treat whoever was injured in this tumultuous time. After all, I was the one who decided to stay back, so I must do everything I can to support them. Just then, Yukimura, is there anything I can help you with? Soma, who had recently joined the soldiers defending Kyoto, was nervous as he asked. Of course, let's prepare our treatment stations. Can you please fetch some water from the well?
Got it, be right back.
Soma sprinted toward the well. Okay, so for now, I need to fold my clean clothes, and I need to find some needles for stitches too. As I was making a mental list of necessary supplies...
God damn it, we just passed New Year's Day, and now all hell's breaking loose.
Well, at least they didn't attack on New Year's Day.
Are they even really Japanese if they won't let us eat our 7-herb porridge in peace? Well, even during the whole incident in Ikeda, they interrupted the Yoyama of the Gion festival.
Soon after, warriors that I'd seen leave the magistrate to fight were being rushed in for treatment. From what I'd seen, the fighting must be horrible. The soldiers were covered in soot from head to toe. Hey, is everyone safe?
We are not your concern. Tend to the wounded.
Well, I was asking if you guys were wounded, because then you would have been my concern. Alright. As Saito had ordered me, I was looking after the maimed men that seemed to pour in. Okay, this may sting a little. Translation, this is gonna hurt a lot. Luckily, many of the men I was treating didn't have life-threatening injuries. At least I could take solace in this, and I approached Nagakura to ask him something. Any word on how the war's going?
Well, can't say it's going well.
Huh? But from what Hijikata had told me, the shogunate forces were well armed and more than enough to handle the Satsuma Choshu in Kyoto.
See, as far as numbers go, we're on top of it, but the Satsuma Choshu have these new guns that shoot farther than anything I've ever seen. As soon as we get close, boom, we're dead. To make it worse, they can fire so quickly that our men can't even wait for them to reload.
No. I knew that despite the bad news Nagakura and Harada were sharing with me, there had to be some good news happening elsewhere from them. But even so, it seemed like the shogunate was experiencing a tougher fight than they had anticipated.
It is true that the situation appears rather negative. However, I do not believe the commander would lead our men to defeat. Exactly. We just have to have faith in his intelligence. Yup, for now, we just gotta keep on rallying the men who can fight. Right, Sano? Back me up. You know it, man. I got your back.
The men spoke with such fearlessness, as if today were just any other day. Strangely, though, it only served to worsen my anxiousness for what was to come. Afterwards, Nagakura, who volunteered to lead a troop to charge straight through the enemy's front line, was growing more disenchanted. The shogunate army had 15,000 men. The Satsuma Choshu had less than a third of that, and yet the momentum seemed to be on their side. As the war continued, it wasn't only the Fushimi magistrate that was experiencing harsh fighting. Based on the reports piling in from the fronts, the shogunate and Satsuma Choshu troops were clashing everywhere men were stationed. This included the Ugeki unit, with whom Iba was affiliated, around the Yodo domain. I could only imagine where the man who lamented the very idea of war coming to fruition could be at a time as frustrating as this. Was he away from the fighting? Was he hurt at all? Iba, please stay safe. The scent of gunpowder stung my nostrils, and I watched the sky darken above me. 2 days had passed since the fighting broke out. January 5th, 1868. Huh? Ah! The frequency of the cannon fire confused me as to whether they were approaching us or if they were celebrating their victory prematurely. All I knew was the cannon fire became non-stop. How many cannons can they have? Several warriors lying injured in bed jumped from the frightening sound.
What the hell was that? Don't tell me the building's coming down.
It's all right, everyone. There's no need to worry, so please, just rest. I had made attempts to comfort the warriors as they began to panic, but then... Ah! It sounded like the cannons were cracking into the building directly, bursting through the walls. The cannon fire was crumbling the roof above, and in the moment I prepared for it to crash on top of me and kill me, but then... You alright, Chizuru? I heard a familiar voice. Heisuke! Sanin too! It must have been because the sun was rising, but the two had returned from their night raid. Good timing, guys. So, how is it out there? Sanin's brow furrowed, silently shaking his head.
We were able to move undetected, sabotaging several cannons and their encampments.
But we don't have enough Furies out there. It's going to be impossible for us to turn the tide.
Oh no. If our captain's swordsmanship and our Fury Corps combined weren't enough, then...
Perhaps this is it.
As Sanin muttered his cynical musings to himself, cannon fire rang in the background. Suddenly...
Yukimura, are you safe?
Hijikata, Inoue!
You guys were looking out for her, huh? Thanks, Sanin, Heisuke.
Hijikata nodded his head to the two men, and Sanin remained stoic, offering no greeting. Although it pains me to admit this, Hijikata, I think it's clear the way this war will end. The Fury Corps has been fulfilling its role to the extent that it can, but considering that they are besting us at every turn, it is becoming hopeless. Alright, time to give all the rest of the people the water of life. Make everybody Furies. Hijikata bit his lips, balling his hand into a tight fist, as his comrades shared his opinion. Hijikata's display made each of us aware just how frustrated, how hurt he must have been. In the past, Hijikata always seemed 2 steps ahead on the battlefield, with his courageousness and his intelligence. So seeing him even entertaining the idea of defeat seemed like something that was impossible for a man of Hijikata's experience to swallow. But eventually...
If it were just me, I'd fight until the very end, no matter what happened. But you're leaving me no choice here.
The words seemed to cause him pain as they left his mouth, and he turned to face the captains.
All troops, retreat! Sanin, Heisuke, back us up at the rear, yeah?
Of course, it is as good as done.
Yeah, leave it to us.
I couldn't just sit and listen to them as they prepared to move into action. Is there anything I can do to help? Hijikata shot me one of his glances that seemed to indicate to me that he was annoyed. Sanin, on the other hand, paused for a moment before answering my question. Well, I do have one favor to ask of you, Yukimura. We in the Fury Corps will be engaging with enemy forces to ensure the safe retreat of our comrades. In the meantime, I'd like you to gather all the documentation about Furies and deliver it to Osaka Castle with Inoue. About the Furies? Yes, many sacrifices have been made in the effort to improve what is known about the Furies. This will be all for naught should the documents land in the hands of our enemies. I gulped at the thought. I had many horrible feelings toward the serum bought into the Shinsengumi by my father. Understood. I will protect them with my life. Okay, I will count on you. Oh no, I think I should just burn them all. All documentation of little consequences will be burned by me here. In other words, what I am entrusting to you and Inoue to transport is the actual process and ingredients listed for the water of life. A sparse document, mind you. Sanin was communicating to me that there could be no mistakes. This was irreplaceable. My legs began trembling as I began to consider the burden of responsibility Sanin placed on me. I looked Sanin straight in the face and I nodded. Got it. Then, if you would kindly follow me, I need to give it to you before this whole building collapses. Better hurry. We'd walked down the hallway, walls rumbling from the cannon fire, and Sanin handed me the documents before Inoue and I left for Osaka. The amber sun was setting from the smoky sky. Since we'd been retreating with many injured Shinsengumi warriors in tow, it was difficult to move quickly, and we were pressed for time. Inoue, do you think everyone else made it out safely?
Pay those thoughts no heed. When we make it to Osaka Castle, we'll see them all again. You have not forgotten what I told you the other day, right?
No, I haven't. Everyone has their role. So, no matter what, all I could do was be patient, and prevent myself from acting rashly.
As the sun sets, it will become more difficult for enemy soldiers to aim their guns, only a little while longer.
Walking on unpaved roads, I nodded to Inoue. Just then, the echo of nearby gunshots startled me, and I gulped. Inoue ducked down, hiding behind a tree, to get a better view of our surroundings.
Those uniforms, they're Satsuma Choshu men.
His confirmation made me grip the bandana on my waist tightly as my hair stood from fear. Harada had mentioned how these new guns could fire from an even further distance than usual. If we were caught, we'd be done for.
We are going to have to make sure they cannot see us.
Right. Inoue whispered softly, and we hid in the shady bushes as we waited for the men to pass. Inoue? Where are we? As he left the main road to hide from the enemy patrol, Inoue and I found ourselves separated from the rest of our convoy. During our initial escape, a warrior had told us that other domains were joining the war. Domains that had previously declared neutrality were now siding with the Satsuma Choshu to kill off any shogunate men, including leadership.
I believe we are not too far from Kyoto, but...
Kyoto? If I remember correctly, Iba's Yugeki unit was close by. Was Iba still safe? I sure hope so. Just then...
Hey, someone is approaching. Yukimura, hide.
Just me? I hid in the shadows just as Inoue had commanded me to. Here it comes. That's my dad, isn't it? I know that silhouette anywhere. A few moments later, I heard the tap of footsteps, and the shadow soon followed after. Who could it be? You don't recognize your own father's silhouette. From what I could make out, it looked like a monk. Or could it be a... doctor? But what would they be doing out here? As the shadow drew closer, the person's features became a little clearer. Then I gasped. It was... Father? As the word left my mouth, I froze, watching in disbelief at what was happening before me. There stood Father, whom I'd been searching for all this time, Koto Yukimura. As he heard my voice, Father slowly turned around. You're not surprised?
That voice, is that you, Chizuru? Are you there, child?
I had longed to hear his familiar voice for so long that I'd almost cried. Inoue, would it be all right if I showed myself to my father? I turned to Inoue, asking for permission despite the possible threat of enemies nearby. However, Inoue's eyes thinned, as if he were still suspicious. But then...
Let him know that you are safe.
He kindly obliged me, bowing his head. This probably isn't wise, but we don't know any better. I nodded back to Inoue, sharing with him a momentary grin before I walked out of the bushes. Father, is that really you? At long last, it was him. I was flushed with so much emotion that it made me lightheaded. Father smiled brightly, and it seemed like he almost choked up as he greeted me. Is that authentic emotion?
It's been a long time, Chizuru. My, how beautiful you've become.
The only response I could muster was the slow shake of my head. Words struggled to come out. At some point, I honestly started to believe that I would never see him again. But there he was, right in front of me, looking as healthy as I wished he would be.
The man with you over there, you're Inoue from the Shinsengumi, yes? Thank you for guiding my daughter all the way here. Please, no need to thank me.
Inoue seemed relatively happy to see that I was reunited with my father. But what are you doing here? Where were you all this time? Father's expression became glum. His eyes tenderly gazed into mine.
It was all my fault for not sending you a letter after all this time. You see, I was taken captive to some place far, far away.
Taken captive? The horrible image of someone taking my father as prisoner made me flinch. But Father continued on, describing his journey without going into great detail.
I had heard that you were being held captive by the Shinsengumi, Chizuru. I have come in search of you, my child. I was so worried. What if you were caught up in all this needless violence and someone were to hurt you?
Father! As he recounted his story, I could feel the anguish he must have been experiencing. I didn't want him to worry anymore. There was so much I needed to ask him, so much I've been wondering all this time. Now, Father, let's go to Kyoto Castle. The Shinsengumi has men there, and I'm sure they'll keep us safe from the Satsuma Choshu troops. In response, however, my father shook his head slowly.
Unfortunately, I have no intention of going to Kyoto Castle. Actually, you won't be going either.
Father? What Father said had seemed a little strange, and his tone became stern, confusing me somewhat. If he were an ally of the Shinsengumi, surely he would seek to rejoin them, or contact the Tokugawa clan for aid? So why? Then it hit me. Father had said taken captive to someplace far, far away. So how did he have any idea that I had been staying with the Shinsengumi all this time? The pieces weren't adding up, and the sense of unease worried me so much I began to back away.
Just what are you trying to say?
Inoue stepped in front of me, guarding me as he seemed to pick up on the inexplicable strangeness. Then Father's tone became completely cold, one which was completely alien to me.
Do I have to spell it out for you? I'm telling you that I refuse to let my daughter return to the Shinsengumi.
A haunting chill crept down my spine. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was there. This wasn't the father I knew. Just then... sensed someone was standing behind me. As I turned around, I saw... Takeda? It was Takeda, the Shinsengumi's former captain of the 5th Division. And look at that. He does seem to have a new arm. It's like wrapped up and stuff, but it seems to be there, like it's a claw. So I think Koto has done something for him. Now him I was not expecting here. Inoe's eyes widened incredulously at the sight.
Takeda, I heard that you had passed away after suffering a serious stab wound. Are you alive?
What do you mean, are you alive? He's standing right there.
Yes, I am alive. Thanks to that old man, I have been saved. What?
Father had saved Takeda's life? A man who called me a monster, who threatened to reveal all of the Shinsengumi's secrets, was working with my father? Well, if I'm a monster, then my father's a monster, so you're working with a monster. He must have been the one who informed my father of my involvement with the Shinsengumi. So he was a mole this whole time. As I attempted to make sense of all this information, Father seemed ambivalent to my reaction, smiling straight at me. Then he reached his hand out to me, the same hands that used to comfort me as a child.
Now it is time for you to come with me, Chizuru. Nothing can hold you back now.
I couldn't bring myself to accept his hand as easily as I would have in the past.
Yukimura, can you trust Koto?
No. Inoue whispered discreetly to me. Before I left for Kyoto, and before I had met everyone in the Shinsengumi, taking Father's hand wouldn't have required a second thought. However, I was far too bothered by something to not be suspicious of all of this. More than anything, too, Sanin, Heisuke, Hijikata, and the rest of the Shinsengumi had placed their faith in me. As it stands, I trust in the men of the Shinsengumi far more than I trust my father. Inoue smiled kindly to my response, and it was in that moment that I made up my mind.
I see. Thank you.
Don't do anything stupid, Inoue! Then he reached his hand to grip the sword on his waist, unsheathing it with a quick movement.
I will handle this from here. Time for you to go on ahead.
Not wise! Can't we run together, Inoue? You're up against at least one demon and one fury. His words slunk heavily, as if there was some finality to them, and it made me nervous. It was as if he didn't expect to come back with me eventually. Inoue? I anxiously called out to him, my voice shaky, but he looked at me with tired eyes, grinning once more.
Worry not. Despite how I may look, I am still a Shinsengumi captain too. I will buy you some time. The closest regiment in our surroundings is the Ugeki unit around Kyoto. If you can make your way to them, Iba should be there.
I gasped.
Promise me you won't die. If you ever believe yourself to be in danger, run. Do whatever it takes to survive. I shouldn't have listened to you. I should have taken you with me to Osaka Castle today. Promise me that I'm making the right choice and letting you stay here. That I don't have to worry about you.
I made a promise to Iba. A promise that he wouldn't have to regret his trust.
No, go. Fulfill what was asked of you.
I understand. Darn it. Oh, actually, I've gone on a little farther than I should have, so I'm gonna have to stop here, and we'll pick up there in the next episode. Because if you watched anybody's route so far, you know what's gonna happen here. It really gets me every single time. So, hope to see you in that next episode, or in some of my other videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.